studied a supreme mathematics, supreme alphabet, and he got through his one student enrollment, but never finished it. But with me, he was able to finish it. So I took it upon myself to build with him and educate him and go through the lessons with him, right? And then I ended up going down to Mexico. I ended up teaching, holding a parliament in Teotihuacan, at the pyramids of Teotihuacan, where I tested and examined brothers on their supreme mathematics, supreme alphabet, and student enrollment. Now, from there, I already knew about gods in Spain because of NYs. So I got in contact with my brother out there, Fede, and he lives in the Canary Islands. So he started another group, and we were calling Spain at that time Al-Andalus, which was the name that the Moors gave it before it was called Spain, before the Spanish Inquisition. So we formed another WhatsApp group. So now we have 3 WhatsApp groups, right? And then now brothers in Colombia are hitting me up, brothers in Argentina.
Wait, so real quick, God, quick. So you got Spain, Venezuela.
Spain and the Canary Islands, which is called Andalusia, Al-Andalus. We got Mexico, we got Venezuela, we got Colombia, right? And we got Argentina. So we got 5 ciphers, like of gods that is building and forming. Now, the only one that I physically traveled to hold parliament was Mexico. Not to say that I don't want to do these other places as well. It's just, money talk. Like this is the whole reason why we're pushing the music so hard now. So I don't just rhyme in English, I rhyme in Spanish as well. And or Spanglish, because my Spanish is all Near Rican and all messed up in the game. It's not, it's incorrect to the utmost, but I love it because I'm a wordsmith. I know how to play with words, and I know how to I'll give you an example. The second principle in our supreme mathematics is wisdom. In Spanish, it's sabiduría. So if you break that word up, sabi is I knew or to know, and duría is not a word, but duría comes from duro, which means hardship. So I knew hardship. You get what I'm saying? So this is the format in which I teach. Conocimiento, miento is the equivalent of mint, M-E-N-T. So when you say government, establishment, M-E-N-T is a suffix that means to have the state of mind of. It comes from the word mental, right? So miento, conocimiento, conocí means I knew, I know, mind. I know mental. You get what I'm saying? To know the mind. Like, this is the format. It's a concept, an idea that transcends language, and you can't get lost in context. This is the reason why brothers have not been successful in teaching outside this country, because they feel, oh, this is an English lesson C1, and I'm going to Latin America. Yeah, you need to, they should learn the English lesson out there. Our Spanish lesson, C1, so to speak, is different. It's books about Francisco Pizarro or Hernan Cortez and the conquest of the Aztecs. You know what I mean? The conquest of the Incas. This is our so-called Spanish lessons, the history of Columbus and the conquest of Cuba, or present-day Cuba and Puerto Rico or Hispaniola. And this is our so-called Spanish lessons. But there's no reason why we shouldn't learn the English lesson C1, because a lot of people don't know that the first slave traders were actually the Portuguese. It wasn't the English. And John Hawkins and Francis Drake, his cousin, were pirates, and they stole a Portuguese ship filled with slaves, and that's how they got the idea. You get what I'm saying? So
never heard that before.
Yeah, do the
Portuguese and Angola. They went to Angola. They was at war with, Queen Nzinga for a while, went for 400 years, something like that. In Port. Yeah,
I would love to tell you that history.
A lot of Portuguese, like they ended up in they went up to Angola, and there was a war there for a while. So he's on point with that.
So just to wrap up real quick, Sur Siete is a concept that represents los dioses del sur, gods of the south. So it's a concept, an idea, and we're pushing it in the music heavy, because the culture that comes out of Mexico, Central and South America, as I said, they did have a school in which they taught knowledge of self. If you study, I don't know if you ever seen the Temple of the Sun in Bolivia. in Tiwanaku. It looks exactly like the one in Kemet, God. It looks exactly like it. And when you study the stories that are written on the Temple of the Sun in Tiwanaku, it's the exact story that you'll find in Kemet about the Nile River. So Lake Titicaca, which is the lake right next to the Temple of the Sun, was where they believed that the universe was birthed out of. It was the womb. And in the same fashion that they believe that the Nile was where the cosmos was formed, and this is the reason why many cities reflect many astrological constellations. And when I say reflect, I mean the structures are built. An entire city is built in the exact shape of the constellation, as you find in Angkor Wat, where it's literally built as the constellation of Draco, the dragon. And this is why there's a lot of dragon figures or snake figures in not only ancient Kemet, but in Mexico, in Angkor Wat, which is in Thailand, Cambodia, and many of these places. You know, we know him in Mexico as Quetzalcoatl. You know what I'm saying? He had an earlier name, Kulkulkan, which is depicted in the second Wakanda movie, but they bastardized it as usual. You know what I mean? They're making the black versus the brown type bullshit, and then they make the brown evil, like, you know, because they're the kind. Like, come on, bro. I'm not like you. That's what I mean. You like this is not the gods that are bringing these movies to the forefront, because the gods don't do that.
Speak on that.
The true and living gods don't do that. The true and living gods don't teach division. We're not here to teach any form of division. You know, we know and understand when you put trading posts in the jungles of any continent, you know what I mean? They're designed to cause separation, and we don't do that, man. You know, that's what the 85 do. That's why when you go to a Dominican parade, you see a bunch of Puerto Ricans, like, you know what I mean? They don't like that. But that's an 85 trait. We're not 85. We supposed to represent the 5%.
I told you, Ron, it's happening. I told you.
We do not believe in the teachings of the 10%. All wise and know who the true and living God is. And there's many 5%. Listen, that lesson, the question is, who are the 5% on this part of the planet? That means that there's 5% on other parts of the planet, man. But they have a different school of thought. This is the gods who taught me, the gods who walk with Allah told me that Jesus was a 5%er. They told me that Buddha was a 5%er. This is I read this by from not only like Knowledge Me's papers, man, because Knowledge Me used to have papers. Who the hell is our national representative? I can't believe it.
Dumar YD, you talking about?
Thank you. Dumar's papers used to say that. Umalaw's papers used to say that. These are my teachers.
Infidel Jamar's too.
Yeah, Infidel Jamar. These are my teachers. These are the brothers who, when I built with them, they were telling me that these men were 5%ers. So if that question is asking what are 5% of this poor part of the planet, it's identifying who we are here, just here. It's just an identification. But the universality of these schools of thought exists throughout the world. That's why the planet Earth is the home of Islam. That's why you find cosmology, astrology, mathematics, geometry, and geography as an important tool in all the ancient cultures that were advanced civilizations that had something equivalent, you know, like the Shaolin Temple, not today, but the Shaolin Temple back then was arguably a replica of the Egyptian mystery schools, but in China. It's a replica of it, not the Egyptians went out there and they did that. And no, dude, this is a universal principle and teaching that we all understood in one shape, form, or fashion, whether we had contact and communication with each other and we all taught one another. But don't give me all that, you know what I'm saying? You the yellow seed, you come from me. I'm here to colonize you, just like my colonizers colonized me. I'm the dominant gene. That's the mindset. You know, you have the mindset of the colonizer, man. That's what I mean. That's weak and wicked. That's weak and wicked. That's it. That's the understanding cipher degree to the utmost. Like, you have these lessons right in front of you, but you're not really dealing with the understanding. You're not understanding the cipher. You know what I mean? You're not. But
that's a fact.
That's my understanding. This is God. This is you know what I mean? my understanding, like when you ask, about not only so-called Latin contribution, but like how we see these, I guess, we came from an era, speaking for me and Suñez and y'all brothers as well. We came from an era where that didn't exist like that, man. You know what? To be honest with you, I don't think it was just an era. I think it was a geography thing. I think because we came from the Mecca, came from New York City. Because now that I live in Florida, this is the first place that I felt uncomfortable, like with a lot of things, man. Like I'm like, yo, man, y'all making me feel weird. Like that segregation, what do you call it? Like error aura still reeks here somehow, some way. I'm like, bro, like this is weird. Like I'm not from this. And I guess because New York City, not only was it a melting pot, but everything was super close to each other. Even though we were segregated to a degree. Like, that's why we got Spanish Harlem. You know what I mean? That's why we got Hell's Kitchen that used to be an Irish and Puerto Rican neighborhood. Washington Heights, a Dominican neighborhood. Like, we did have our segregation, so to speak. But within our segregation, like because the city's so condensed, we ended up marrying into each other's cultures, whether we liked it or not.
Right.
Where down here, this is not really a pedestrian friendly city. You need a car everywhere you go. I don't think that and I'm not just speaking for Florida, but I haven't been everywhere in the United States to like really feel the ambiance of what's going on, but I know down here in Florida, cities are pretty far apart from each other and they don't really have communication with each other like that, especially since this used to really be the Deep South, like for real.
Just to speak on the energy now on it, I'll say is more so on the internet, with this, foundational Black American movement and the reparations movement, ADOS. That movement is fairly new, and I think those movements come from outside of New York, outside of Mecca.
Look at this. Let me make another point.
Hold on a second, God. And it has its influence on the internet, and I think that it's created a divide that right now. That's why we building on this to shed some light on the fact that there's no separation. We're one people.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead, God.
Well, it's in the concept and the idea of calling yourself American as well. I had that issue once too. South America is America, right? Like, Central America is America, right? But our mindset here in the wilderness of North America, that's why I keep using the type of terminology is that we are the real Americans. We are the real Black. Like this is a colonizer's mindset. This is what I mean. Like, and you got to understand the psychology of that too. It was our upbringing, man. We were taught when we looked at a map when we were in grammar school or grade school, the United States was the center of the map, and it was bigger than the continent of Africa. And so that not only seeped over into Americans in general, but now we, as original people, Black, brown, and yellow here in the United States, because this is the United States of America. It's not just America. This is not like we hold hostage to terminologies. We hold hostage and kidnap these terms and they're ours, and we're the center, right? But think about it. The World Trade Center was in New York City. Where the center where the world traded was in New York City. The United Nations is in New York City. Like, you got to understand the psychology of that. The psychology of that is feeding into us as a people. And when you get knowledge yourself, you're supposed to really kind of see things for what they are, not what they appear to be.
Right.
But we get lost in the fog. You know what I mean? And it's ill because our universal flag has that white. That white was supposed to represent the fog. That was supposed to cloud, but the sun, the star, and the moon shine through it. You know what I mean? That's what it's supposed to represent. And I see on the flag, I see a black and gold. I don't tell people I'm the yellow seed. That's not how I grew up. That's a 5% terminology. I didn't grow up knowing that until I came into this nation. I grew up being taught that I was the brown. Like, you know what I mean? Now I'm like, nah, man, you know what? That gold on the flag, that's me. Like, I'm the gold seed. If you're gonna start playing with words, all right, I'll play with words too. You know what I mean? I'm an MC.
No disrespect to the teachings and what was laid, the foundation that was laid, and the lessons. However, like the seed thing, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? To me, we all one, so
it's just a misunderstanding. Of course, you're gonna say that, God, you were indigo. You know what I'm saying? He was representing that indigo. So of course, you're gonna say that. But yes, we are all one. But a lot of that is just based on misunderstanding. And it's not really based on any actual science. It's not based on actual biology and genetics. Because if it was based on actual biology and genetics, you will understand that the keratin and the melanin are one and the same. It really is. And Dr. T. Owens Moore emphasizes that in his book. But many of these people who speak on melanin are metaphysicists and are not qualified. Love is love to Dr. Richard King. Love is love to Jewel Pookrum. We got love for them. They Phil Valentine. We got love for these people. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of love, but it wasn't based on actual science. And a lot of these people, and this is my issue with a lot of people, is that we become some fantastic librarians, but that's about it. You know what I mean? You masters a Dewey Decimal System. That's all you are. No disrespect. You haven't cut open a body and done this, that, and the third. Any information you get is third hand. So when you vouching for it in a way like you were the one that cut, like you bugging me out. Any information that I like to present, I'm very careful. I have to be, because I'm not the person that you didn't see me in the laboratory with a microscope going like this. And too many of us really, really speak like we know. Like, really, know?
Yeah. That's a fact.
You seen a gene through the microscope? You seen that before? Like, you seen what a stem cell looks like? You seen how a stem cell separates? Like, did you know until recently the Newtonian law of gravity was proven, because we didn't have the machines for it? It was just theory, where they dropped the bowling ball and a feather at the same time. Mm-hmm. And they said, because Newton believed if you eliminate oxygen from the room, if you drop a bowling ball or a cannon and a feather, they will hit the floor at the same time. They finally created a room where they sucked out the oxygen and they dropped them at the same time, and it finally hit the floor. Before that, it was just theory. The speed of light is still just a mathematical theory. It's a mathematical equation, but it's theoretical until we can get the machine to actually prove that. We broke the sound barrier. That we can talk about, because I've seen planes go. So I've seen it with my own eyes. That I can say. You know what I mean? But a lot of us, I say that because a lot of information that we're pushing forward as actual fact, but we got no actual proof. We reading books and we're basing it based on that book. But within a book, you have footnotes, and you got to research those footnotes, and you got to see if those footnotes actually match up and what contradicts. Like, you know how many people talk about Black Athena, but have you ever read Black Athena Revisited? Like, have you ever read the argument against Black Athena? Or are you just like, no, Martin Burnell just makes sense to me, so I'm just going with what he said. And so does George G.M. James, even though they didn't quote any sources and things like that. Like, now you gotta have access to all information so you can have a decision and make a decision based on all the information. You can't just pick and choose and be like, yeah, this is the truth because it sounds good. It feels right. That's dogma. You're doing it academic. Even there's academic dogma. There's political dogma. There's religious dogma. There's academic dogma. There's dogma and everything. And I'm not trying to act like I'm the one, the man that knows it all. Nah, man. I make mistakes like everybody else, man. I tripped over a hole in the floor, like, oh shit, I didn't see it. Like, you know what I mean?
Not me, because I'm too cool. Cool.
Maybe.
I'm too cool.
You know what
that
I mean?
doesn't happen to me,
Maybe. I don't know if you roll on the floor like afterwards.
Nah, I act like I'm playing ball.
Yeah. But like that's my point. Like, you know, like we all listen, the planet Earth is on its axis. We have a fraction, it's not a perfect sphere, it's oblong. Like there's the imperfection, the perfect, the imperfect, perfect, the imperfection, perfection, the perfection of the imperfection, and the imperfection of the perfection. These are just yin and yang principles, man, that we have to just embrace. Like, you know what I mean? And you know what's funny? Like the word poor righteous teachers in Spanish doesn't really translate well. So the gods, and it wasn't my decision, God. Like I want brothers to know that I'm not sitting here translating lessons into Spanish and it's just me. Like, no. Like one, God's already did that before me, right? Speak to the God, Son God. He'll tell you about that. I've had that conversation with him. You know what I mean? That's one. Two, because there were ciphers that were building throughout these Spanish-speaking countries, what I did, or at least tried to do, was get one person to represent for each country that we were teaching of, because each country speaks a different Spanish dialect. Trust me, man. Like if you were fluent in Spanish and I brought a Mexican person here, but you only knew Puerto Rican Spanish, you'd be like, can you say that again? Like, I don't know how many times I'm down there and I'm like, bro, like what happened? What? Like I laugh. You know, the word ahorita in the Caribbean means later, but in most of Central and South America means right now. Ahorita. You know what I mean? Like I'm telling you, like, so I had to get individuals from these ciphers to come together and start working on the translation of it together as a cipher, not as an individual who's the master farad of it all. He's got to be the WF Muhammad. No, 360 to us represents the understanding of the equality of our cipher, because each one teach one. I don't have all the answers, but I know people. And because I have access to people, I have access to more information. Did you know that God, divine ruler equality, has masters in physics? A lot of people don't know that. And when I have a question on physics, he's the person I go to. So if somebody asks me a question, and I'm like, I could tell you straight up, like, yo, math is not my strongest, at least arithmetic, you know, advanced math when it comes to like trigonometry, calculus. It's not my most fluent. I'm not really good at it. So trying to understand gravity and the equation behind gravity, I still haven't even grasped that concept. But you talk to divine ruler and you be like, boom, boom, boom. That's what I mean. Like somebody might ask me that question and I'm not going to sit here and be like, well, you know, nah. I'm like, you know what? I don't know, but I know somebody who does. Because the word knowledge means to know the ledge. It means to know your limits. Right. A ledge is a limit. Know what you know what you don't know, so that you can learn what you don't know. Or you can ask people like, yo, you know this guy? Oh, all right, cool. You know what I mean? That's what makes knowledge infinite. So that being said, forming this council, you know what I mean? Everybody gets their input in it. So now what I wanted to do was create a better translation that was all inclusive. That wasn't just limited to the Mexican dialect or the Venezuelan dialect or the Colombian dialect or the Argentinian dialect or the Spaniard dialect. You know, in Spain, when we say we in Puerto Rico and Cuba and Latin America, quote unquote Latin America, all of Latin America, we say nosotros with the letter N. In Spain, they use the letter V, vosotros. Like it's you know what I mean? Like that's what I mean. Like the point of the translation of the lesson should be all inclusive. It shouldn't just be limited. My role in that is that I come from the Nuyorican version of getting knowledge itself, because I come from that. You know, the God cipher and here in the holy city of Mecca and in Harlem. You know what I'm saying? So I come from that background. So I'm able to bring that input. But did you know that Sun God corrected me on one of my translations? And I had to just submit to the truth and be like, you know what? You got a good point, God. I'm going to change that. Because I said that the maker is el fabricante. El fabricante is the literal translation to the maker. El fabricante, but it sounds like fabricate, to make up something. And he said, no, el lo que haces, es lo que haces. I was like, damn, God, thank you for that jewel, man. I'm going to put that in this as well. So that being said, I'm a man that can be corrected too, man. No man is above correction. You know what I mean? And I'm hoping that me building and this is just bringing the idea that we as the 5% on this poor part of the planet, specifically from the 5%er perspective, right? Because we come from a lost 5% nation, that we dealing with the understanding, which is the highest form of this information. So that being said, going back, sorry, poor righteous teachers in Spanish doesn't translate properly because pobre means like the concept of pobre is like you come from the lowest of lows. You're not worth anything. Like pobre doesn't translate well. So the gods, the council said, we say it's humilde, which means humble.
So when you say council, are you saying a group of gods?
I'm just using that terminology, God. Please don't.
Yeah, we gotta clarify.
Don't put me on blast. I don't need people hitting me up.
That's what I'm saying, God. You gotta clarify that because it's like the council.
Like they come at Suñez all the time. You know, I don't need trolls in my life.
So you're saying basically a group of gods.
I apologize, God, for using that terminology. But when I say council, I meant just gods from these countries that are learning, that we came together and we formed a cipher. And within that cipher, we're trying to deal with the translation of the lessons from English into Spanish for all inclusiveness. Right. Because remember, we're not from Spain, God. We're not from England either. I'm speaking English to you, but I'm not from England. We're not from Spain. I might be speaking Spanish, but we're not, and that's something I emphasize. We do not speak our native tongue. So the understanding has to come through these languages that are not ours. There's no reason why we need to be butting heads left and right. Just because we're like having a difference in opinion when it comes to vocabulary. Plus, I think we need to learn how to agree to disagree.
Oh my God.
Without being so goddamn good. Yeah,
I'm trying to find a sound effect for that.
There you go.
There we go.
Funk Master Flex.
I'm happy you brothers came in and clarify that, because that's what's taking place online right now. My family's from the Caribbean as well. I'm from family from Haiti. I got some background too from Cuba, from Camagüey, my grandmother's side. So yeah, so
but you black, but I'm not. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it doesn't make sense, but but I already know. But it's crazy though, because on TikTok, it is a disgusting thing taking place out there.
Yeah.
With the Latinos and blacks and the indigenous, who's Taino, who's more Taino than the other, who's black, who's gatekeeping the culture.
Yeah,
it's just weird.
Why are we talking about this right now?
There's a lot of COINTEL behind that, man.
COINTEL, that's what I said too.
There's a lot of COINTEL. If you remember the culture degree, the fourth lesson in the 1 to 14, it says he caused trouble among the righteous people, accusing the righteous people of telling lies, causing them to fight and kill one another. And
exactly.
That's a COINTEL principle. And they, if you listen to a lot of like Joe Rogan podcasts and stuff like that, and it's not just him, like he has a lot of people that are involved on his show with knowing this information. There might be some espionage involved in some of the algorithms, not only on TikTok, but in social media, to sway you to link more towards what you are in alignment with, so that you can be more disagreeable with something that you're not in alignment with. And there's algorithms designed to do that, and they believe many of these people that are behind the Central Intelligence Agency and stuff like that, they believe that people are purposely doing this in order to cause division and civil disobedience here in the United States.
That's a fact. That's because I have said that since like for 3 years now, social media, especially on TikTok,
Mhm.
diffusing the situation. I always say you guys have an app from Asia that's pimping your emotions, that's manipulating you, and you guys are falling into it. Yeah, yeah.
It was. I'll tell you this much. It was serious enough to have the CEO of TikTok up in the Senate,
Yeah, I
having
seen
to
that.
defend himself
Right.
Yeah,
for many of the information, because there was a lot of information that was being brought forth by the Central Intelligence Agency to a lot of the Senate, and they had to question like what's going on. So this has not been taken lightly. You know, uh, it's something that we should probably consider. This is one of the reasons I don't have a TikTok page. Um, but I'm not stupid enough to think that it's not happening on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
And YouTube.
Yeah. And the thing of it is as well is that much of these conversations never would happen in the same manner if we were all physically in the same room. Like
that's
there's no
a fact.
like if I'm gonna call out names, then I'm gonna call out names. The way Lord Jamal disrespected our brother Minister Freedom on Killer Priest show was disgusting to me.
Wait, I
Word.
didn't.
Disgusting.
Word.
I'm disgusted and appalled by that, because you're supposed to be the 5%, and there's a bunch of people there that's not 5%ers, and you talking to your brother like that, who's part of the same nation as you, got the same last name as you, and come from the same one-mindedness as you, same school of thought as you, and you're gonna disrespect them in that fashion in front of all these people just because you're having a disagreement. You know what I mean? You can't even disagree without being so damn disagreeable that you're gonna sit here and disrespect them like that. That's, it's disgusting. That's why I don't engage in none of this. Like I'm doing this for you, God Supreme, because you my brother, God. Like I've known you for years, months, and days. I already know. And Suñez hit me up whenever Suñez throws the Batman symbol up. I'm there, like Robin. You know what I'm saying? I'm right there in the Batmobile. Like, what you need, God? Anything he needs, I'm there. So, but I don't really do any of this stuff because all that troll shit and that's not me, God. I don't understand that. I'm allergic to that personality.
Mm-hmm.
That don't exist. That never existed in a cipher. Like if you disrespected a God in the cipher, that wouldn't happen. That would never happen. I've never seen that. And I've seen I'm telling you, listen, I come from a law real school of thought, and a law real was not the nicest communicative individual. Colleen was not the nicest communicative individual. Firstborn Prince was not the nicest communicative individual. You know what I mean? But that being said, the type of talk that's happening online to each other, like it's disgusting, man. I'm allergic to that shit.
That's a fact, man. None of these trolls would say any of this stuff. You know what I mean?
I don't talk. I learned that in the MySpace days. As soon as I swear I learned that early. And then when everybody was transitioning over from MySpace to Facebook, I was like, I'm done. I was like, I'm not even, because I saw what was happening to me. I saw my stress levels was off the chain. And I was constantly stressing it and taking it out on people in the street and talking about it. And people had no idea what I was talking about. But I was indirectly talking about it. But it was like, damn, but it was what that was doing was pushing away a lot of people. People
You know
didn't
what?
really get it just
I
seems upset.
figured this thing out years ago. I was on the internet, YouTube, and I was kind of like going back and forth with like a Pan-African brother, and man, I was getting hit up in my inbox and all of that. And at the time, I was younger, so I'm like, yo, let's just meet up.
Yeah.
I'm trying to meet up with everybody that's sending threats, and my man is like, bro, these people are like trolls. You're not gonna see these people. They're not gonna pull up where you pull up. That's not gonna happen. And then I was just like, oh, so this is how this goes. You know what I'm saying? So, like the whole troll thing and all of that is not me either. Cause I want to meet you. You know what I'm saying?
Yo, it's gods without avatars. You know what I mean? I don't respond to that. I just report it. I'm like, nobody knows you. Not only does nobody know you, chances are you never even been around. And if you were around, you were the quiet one in the back of the room that didn't say anything. But when you got on the internet, you got live wire. That's why I tell Suñez, be careful, God, because Suñez is a lone wolf. He walked by himself in the street. I mean, he's prepared. I'm not worried that he ain't gonna be able to defend himself. But You know what I mean? Like a lot of these cats, if they sneak in and they're hiding in social media, trust me, they're hiding in the alleyway and they'll do something. Like you got to be careful. Sometimes you just disagree. No problem.
Weirdos.
Yeah, that's it. Just wipe your hands. Like, you know what I mean? That's
I'm
how
gonna keep it plain and honest. You know, I'm gonna take a different approach. I'm not gonna be articulate as much. You gotta be careful with these weirdos. A lot of them are just glizzy eaters, man. As they said, the young people say, they just want attention. They lack something within themselves, so that they
some of them,
look attached to you.
some of them suffer from psychological disorders.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Everything is real. Like
Yeah.
some of them are like, I've been around it. Like this nation attracts the craziest weirdos of all. And then like when you get behind some of the weirdo stuff, you find out that they on certain medications. And it's like, I get it because this information, like it should attract the weirdos. But you know what I mean? If there's a chemical imbalance in the brain, like I don't have the power to chemically balance you. And information is not going to chemically balance you. You know what I mean? It has to be a lifestyle. It has to, like, to be honest with you, I don't have the answer because I'm not even going to sit here and tell you that diet will fix a chemically imbalanced individual.
Right. Or people's past traumas.
That's a fact.
Abuse. Like we're dealing with a lot, like people not getting enough sleep, not enough water. Then they hop on the internet, they're discombobulated, they're angry, and then they make you the target.
Right.
Level of education plays a part.
Suñez, you haven't said a word.
I'm doing the knowledge, man. I
just like it was like, go ahead, God, take over. Like I told you,
yo, you know, like
I do that. God, give me a mic and you just go off. That's it.
Yeah, nah. You know, I thought as far as like a Latino contribution, I thought that you were the perfect person to build on it, to add on to it. I think that in the nation, I will say that as far as like teaching a variety amount of people, though, very few people see as many people wanting to get the knowledge as I do. You know what I mean? So because I'm right there, you know what I mean? I'm right there, as consistent there. No one's been there at the school that long, just staying there to see who's gonna come into a classroom.
Right.
And so when it comes to Latinos and not teaching, though, a lot of the issues that you see online aren't really the real issues that are happening. You know, so why certain Latinos won't learn the knowledge of self, or why certain people won't do it, it has nothing to do with what people say on the internet, you know. And I think there's always a twofold approach, though. Like when we see trolls and stuff like that, and I you know, we talked about this guy, like we talk about Allah School and Mecca page, the YouTube page and everything. You know, I got the most trolls. Ain't nobody got trolls even close to me, you know what I mean? And it's everything. I've gotten shit I get stuff for the polo, I get stuff for whatever I'm wearing, whatever I say, however I look. And then people use past interviews to try to manipulate that information. You know what I mean? So it's like the Obama thing where he's not American. You know what I mean? The whole thing there. Like, I still get the thing, God, where Suñez is my it's my honorable name and not a righteous name. You know what I mean? I still get that shit. You know, so I'm still getting things that are not true, and easily disproven though, but people will repeat it long enough. And that's what I said. The COINTELPRO thing is very strong because I think that a lot of people now, like FBA and other movements, they are being rewarded for how strong the divisionary devices they use are effective. You know, when the divisionary devices they use are effective, they are rewarded with placement, they're rewarded with a better algorithm, or whatever you can get. And I think it does affect the nation because the point of doing videos like this, the point of, let's say, a law school and Mecca page and stuff, was to, as all other purposes, was to bring this knowledge. And one of the things that you see within our nation, though, if you look at the vast amount of videos that are put out, this is not a very easy thing to explain, and yet there's very little error. Like, look at the error rate of what people say on these videos, gods and earths and stuff, all over the years. There's very little error rate, you know, so that we're not being people are not really getting confused by what we're teaching, though. They're deciding to misuse it. Right. You know, they're deciding to look at it the way they want to look at it. And because of this gap, right, what people get in the internet is that there's a whole bunch of years of the streets and the nation and real work that they weren't around at all. Right? So they're trying to fill that gap and then criticize with a gap that they filled in that they don't know. You know, and that's also being at the head. In a lot of ways, I'm like a head figure in that. I get a lot of stuff for that too. So like I was saying, I said this many times, I get spoken about and criticized like I'm the New York Mets. You know what I mean? Like when you're on the internet, you criticize the team and everything. These guys, if they just did this, and I'm like, if Suñez just did this and he just did that and everything, I was like, yo, you wasn't playing in any of these games though. You know, he wasn't playing in any of these games. You don't know what was going on in the street. You don't know. You wasn't teaching anybody.
Bunch of spectators.
Done this. We're supposed to have done that. And people have images about this kind of stuff, you know, and it affects what I think. And I've been saying this for a long time. What is the most important new add-on or focus of the mission of the 5% in this century? I've been saying it this century, pretty much my entire time, that if we don't learn about the other cultures of original people, we're going to start to become more and more ignorant, you know? And when you look down, like people always saying like, and I'll reiterate this point because we're talking about seeds and stuff. People don't really understand because they weren't really with the elders that were with the father. So they don't really know what the seeds and all the stuff was for.
Right.
The whole point of the seeds wasn't to say, oh, he's the black one, he originated all things. And then the brown one, he comes out of that and he talks a lot because he's the wisdom seed. And then the understanding seed will explain things well because, you know,
right.
The whole point of this, though, is that the father knew, you know, people forget that the father really knew the social realities that all the seeds were in, that everybody was in. So he knew that if I rolled with a black seed, right, that the black seed would get treated differently on certain occasions, though, than I would. And that I would get treated, I would most likely get treated that badly if I was on my own. But then they put their own hierarchies on it. He knew these hierarchies. He knew this kind of caste system that's that's well seen. So he wanted us to roll like black seed was supposed to be a black seed, brown seed, yellow seed, not so they could stay in their positions, but so that they could roll together. So the criticisms, when I used to talk to Firstborn Prince, the criticism was not that the black seed does this, brown seed does that, yellow seed does this. It's that if you're a yellow seed, where's the black seed that you're with? Why are you walking out there without the, you know what I mean? Everybody was teaching only in the streets. That's the main classroom. So it was like this kind of buddy system to build with as you go along. Look at the way the gods were first called the blood brothers in the beginning. They was really living with each other. They was together all the time. So it's the same thing with the seeds. When you look at also when people get taught the knowledge of self, if they're even trying to learn, they don't get taught how the knowledge is respective to their own ethnicity. In other words, they don't learn the connected devices though. So we go with the old connected devices of a lot of scholarship that is incomplete. So, you know, the guy was talking about the scholarship, right? But like most of the scholarship that we harped on that we had was origins of. So all we got was black started this, black started, the first guy here was black, the first guy that started this was black first, black samurai first, and it was a whole laundry list of things. And we got no connective tissue, no timelines of how anything happened, how any of this tree went into branches and stuff. So we don't know and really understand how the black, brown, yellow seed is original and one and the same because we don't know. We're missing massive gaps in history. And so when people get knowledge and stuff like that, they try to connect to something. And if they can't, they're totally stuck. So what happens is, and this happens constantly, if it's a so-called Latino, a lot of times though, they're going to be like, man, why go through all this mess here? You know what I mean? And why try to extra articulate myself? Right? Because one thing is that like, let's say out of the four of us in here, you know, Supreme and Mike, no one's gonna say, oh, you know, Mike is not black though. That's, you know, that's a European, that's a dark Mediterranean there. You know what I mean? But in many ciphers, though, me and Infinite Mind will have to prove that we are black as before that what should be a requisite, automatic requisite. You know what I mean? So a lot of people that are getting knowledge of self, they're like, I can't deal with all that. I can't tell you, and I think I said this last time, I can't tell you how many people that they learn civilization, righteousness, but don't really keep the knowledge of self as far as living it out, because they say, listen, man, I salute you, Suñez, but all the things that you did, I couldn't really do all that. You know what I'm saying? And I don't have no problem with that either, because like Infinite Mind knows, we're the 5%. So only the toughest can be that. So to me, I'm like, that's okay. You wasn't tough enough to do that. But when it's online, though, it just causes a lot of confusion. There's not a clarity in things. You know what I mean? And for our nation, though, we're going to have to learn about other cultures and shit. You know, we can't be going around to other neighborhoods and say, oh, I don't know why Colombians say this and that. What? Find out. Find out. Like, that history is not valid only unless you could use it immediately. You know, so they don't want to learn, oh, I don't know any Colombians, so it's no big deal. Then when a Colombian comes, now they have all this disagreement. They have all this confusion. They have all this, oh, how come they don't know stuff? Because their perspective of studying 120 wasn't about doing the knowledge to all histories of the original peoples. You know what I mean? And we don't do that. How many of us are, just because we should, reading histories about India and Asia, you know what I mean? Japan, China, and they'll just be like, well, I'm not like Infinite Mind. I'm not going to China to do no kung fu and nothing like that. I don't need to know that. I watch some kung fu movies, you know? And then when they have the same awkward relationship as Rush Hour, when they're with Asian people, then they're wondering, oh, I don't think these people are original, and they alter the knowledge. You know?
Me, I mean, well, we all know God is universal, right? So that's the way I came up.
Absolutely.
So God, if God is universal and that's what you know, then you're supposed to know different history.
Right.
You know, that's why a lot of gods and earths have a broad spectrum of information, if you will.
Absolutely. When I got knowledge, I can't tell you how many gods used to come up to me saying random Puerto Rican facts. You know what I mean? Just telling me random things, you know what I mean? To show that they knew all this stuff. But I think that that's something I say as far as our nation, how we could be stronger, why it's an important issue, you know? But as far as like foundational Black Americans, ADOS and stuff like that, that's a general thing that is a perspective of all revolution, nearly all revolution, except the 5%. All the revolution has been focused mostly on the negative that's been done. We are brothers because we are against that enemy. You know what I'm saying? What happens when we get knowledge of self, right? We're not focused on the white man, the devil, this. You know how many times we get the knowledge and we're like, the white man did this, white man did that. He said, no. You need to learn about why you're the true living God.
Right.
And why, let's say, if you were in a world where there's no devils, how are you the true and living God? You know what I mean? How are you a warrior, though, if there's no enemy? You know what I'm saying? Because the whole point of being a warrior is that you're always ever bettering yourself. So this perspective is something that's only really with this knowledge. And that's why I think it contrasts a lot in a lot of YouTube ciphers and what people are looking for in YouTube. You know, I yesterday's streaming class, right? I streamed my class last night again. And I got a Christian woman that was in there. She was very polite, you know, and she was receptive to what I was saying and everything, you know, because I'm smooth, right? I do it smooth. But the interesting thing that was what she was saying, how my live video came up in her algorithm pictures, you know, on the YouTube page where it's giving you things that you might like. And I think that we come up in a lot of people's pages, but we're not really part of their algorithm. You know, they're looking for things of anger, of hatred. You know, they're thinking things. It's not about why I'm Black, really. The depth of me is that I'm Black because I'm not like that, you know? And look, that could be so easily manipulated against people. You know, it's like Confucius always said, like, that whole concept of whatever you see wrong in someone else, though, there's a part of that that's in you. You're seeing yourself. In other words, it's highlighting something that you see in yourself. Like, it may not be the same exact thing, but there's a reason that you see that more vividly. There were things that you have to correct that are maybe in a similar vein. And when we're teaching this knowledge, that whole thing about pro-black and anti-white is still very much misunderstood, if not very difficult to apply for people. You know, it's a very difficult thing to apply for people. And I think that when people are looking for, they want to consume Black power, they want to consume videos that are about liberation, but they don't really know about the minuscule, day-to-day small work that goes into liberation. And really, that's what was focused on with our nation, you know, right? When we got knowledge, though, elders would take us aside, and we thought we get in a mission of militancy and stuff. And they're like, Saving Knowledge pulled me aside, right? He's like, what do you do, God? You write, God. Well, I'm going to need you to write something. I said, I thought we were going to do something serious. I thought we were going to do, you know? No, it's just utilizing my school, my skills to fulfill something, you know, that's profound to the society. Oh, teach the babies and doing things with the youth, you know? These are things that don't translate well to, you know, YouTube and the consumer, you know, and consuming Black culture. And no matter what, Allah School of Mecca page, the great things that Allah Infinite, aka Inf Mega, does on the Allah School of Mecca page, so many people learn genuinely from that and sincerely, but it's part of Black culture, part of consuming Black culture. You know, so when people go on and they need to consume Black culture, he's some Black stuff that's tough and different. We're in an algorithm. You know, we're always in that algorithm, you know, and that's the thing. A subculture gets confused with a counterculture a lot of times, you know. Subcultures sound cool and opposite, and they're hip and rebellious, but they're really not changing shit like the counterculture.
Mm-hmm.
They're not really challenging shit like the counterculture. And that's the difference, you know.
Shock factor too. The shock factor has just more drama, and shock factor just is more attractive. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That's the reason why the counterculture is so successful.